So again, welcome to the annual Business Development Intensive with the Center for Executive Coaching. My name's Andrew Knightlick. In just a second, I'll take you through the agenda. It might be helpful. I don't know if I've told everybody my own story of how I got into executive coaching. In addition to running the Center for Executive Coaching, which I founded and which has grown organically, mainly when people from my past life came to me for training a long time ago at the start of the millennium. I started the Center for Executive Coaching, and once it reached a point where I was being referred to prospective coaches that I didn't know, I formalized it as the Center for Executive Coaching. But my passion and what I spend a great deal of my time doing is coaching clients. And when I first started, I wasn't like some of the coaches you hear about. I wasn't a tenured professor. I didn't have a book contract or a best-selling book. In fact, I was at a consulting firm that took a dim view of coaching. They were consultants. They were highly analytical thought leaders. And when a client asked me for coaching instead of consulting, that was the first time I saw what I could do. And when I left the firm to start up a coaching and leadership advisory practice, I had no network. And I stumbled like you wouldn't believe. I mean, I made the dumbest, most rookie mistakes in the book for about 3 to 6 months until I started figuring out what works and getting traction. And within a year, I could track a full practice back to my first 2 clients. And so in many ways, I may be like you. If business development is not natural, if you at one time were scared to death of selling, and maybe still are, or that word selling, and you associate marketing and sales maybe with the used car salesman type, you're not unlike how I was. I really struggled for a bit, and now it's natural. I've learned how to make all of this natural and authentic, and that's the point of today's webinar. Let me take you through the agenda. We have 2 warm-up exercises. This, by the way, will take about 2 hours, so please strap in. I don't think I've packed so much content into a webinar in a while. I hope I can make it as interesting as possible, and please do ask questions anytime. We're going to start with a quick assessment of your own coaching practice and particularly your satisfaction with how you're doing. And then we'll talk about 6 myths about business development. There's many more myths than that, but I thought I'd pick 6, and we'll very quickly dispel those. From there, I'm going to get into 8 guidelines or resolutions or rules for best practice business development, and we'll take them one at a time. Starts with having a business development dashboard. There's a lot of questions about what kind of niche do I need as a coach. We'll talk about that. We're going to do marketing message, but I'm going to try to make it interesting by reading you an excerpt from Dr. Seuss, one of his books. He's a great writer. From there, we'll talk about how to get openings beyond coaching alone, the psychology of successful business development, the only 4 ways there are to get visible. So we're going to take all the pressure away in terms of how you get visible and attract clients. At about that point, I'm going to take you to my website for just 3 to 5 minutes. For the first time ever, what I'm doing here is using today as an overture, like, an overture to a symphony or an opera. This is an overview of some of the most important best practices in business development. This webinar stands on its own, but some people have asked to continue. And so I've created 44 modules that I'm going to deliver, and I'm going to take about 3 to 5 minutes to introduce you to what those are. And if you want to continue with those and register, I've put it together at about the lowest price I've ever done. And I'll get into that later. It's only going to be 3 to 5 minutes. The rest will be highly educational. And if you're not interested, just tune out for that time. If you are interested, I'd be delighted to have you join. Then we'll conclude with the last 2, perhaps most important topics or resolutions that there are, particularly pricing. A lot of coaches have low pricing self-esteem. That's a disease. We're going to cure you of that disease today. And then finally, selling conversations. Again, I was scared to death of selling, and that fear kept me from starting my own practice for way too long. And now I realize that there's a way that all of us as coaches have to make selling conversations natural and authentic and easy. And I'm not kidding. This is not a gimmick. So we'll talk about that. And then I'll take final questions and talk about next steps. Okay, so that's the agenda. I hope you find it enormously valuable, and ask questions anytime that you like, okay? So let's jump in. Again, 2 warm-up exercises. I want to start with a quick 8-question assessment. If you would, just take out a piece of paper and rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 on these, how much you agree with the following statements, where a 10 means you totally agree, a 1 means you're not particularly in agreement or satisfied, okay? First, I am satisfied with how much I earn as a coach. What's fascinating about coaches is there are all sorts of aspirations out there. I've worked with coaches who make about as much, have made up to $1.5 million just trading their time for dollars. Others who have aspirations of only making 50 to, I don't want to say only, but of making $50,000 to $75,000. So it's up to you. Just on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you agree with the statement, I'm satisfied with how much I earn as a coach? You don't have to share it in the questions. This is just for you, just to get us grounded in what we're trying to do today. 2, I'm satisfied with how much I charge as a coach. So this gets to the low pricing self-esteem question. We're not talking about whether you're satisfied with how much you earn overall, but what about how much you charge as a coach? Given your experience, the value you know you can bring, are you satisfied? 3, I am known in my market as the go-to professional. Okay, so what that means is that when somebody in your target market has a problem or an issue that you can solve, you're the one they call first. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much would you agree with this statement? 4, I'm comfortable having business development, aka selling, conversations with prospects. Again, this was a 1 or even a 0 or a -5 for me when I first started out. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm comfortable having business development conversations with prospects. I mean, just as an aside, I thought there was some magic script. Like if I read Zig Ziglar or one of the great sales gurus, they just give me this like script. And if I said the script right, clients would come to me. I mean, obviously that's ridiculous, but I actually thought that when I was young and naive. Number 5, my marketplace is clear about my unique advantage compared to other coaches and advisors. So if you asked your market, people who haven't even hired you, what sets you apart, they'd be able to say something that unlike other coaches, unlike other advisors, you something, 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 right? Because we know the coaching market is full of generic, vanilla coaches. A lot of the market seems like the goldfish on the left. So you give yourself a 10 if you're the goldfish on the right in a way that's valuable and compelling to your market. 6, I have a specific proven formula. I have a specific proven formula to predict my revenues each month. Okay, so in other words, you don't just wing it with your marketing. You just don't hope that you're going to hit a monthly number. You actually have a formula that tells you what exactly you have to do to hit the number that would make you satisfied every week, every month, every quarter, every year. Scale of 1 to 10. 7, I'm satisfied with how many decision makers I'm reaching. This is a big one for coaches. Again, I'm satisfied with how many decision makers I'm reaching. There's a lot of coaches who are putting in a good effort to get clients, but unfortunately they're hanging out at places that are not putting you or them in front of real decision makers. So a good example that I hear all the time are those BNI meetings. BNI is Business Networking International. It's a networking group, and they do good work. However, when I first started, I joined one of those, and all I was meeting were, people selling mortgages, solo salespeople of insurance. I remember there was a cookie baker, a house painter, solo. None of those folks were ever going to get me in front of the types of people I needed to work with as an executive and leadership coach. So are you satisfied with how many decision makers you're reaching? And finally, question 8, prospects come to me, I don't feel like I have to chase them. Scale of 1 to 10. You can see here the dog trying to chase a tire. You don't want to feel like that dog. You want the prospects to come to you, obviously. I don't feel like I have to chase them. So on a scale of 1 to 10. All right, so this is just our warm-up exercise to start things off. But what did you take away from this? Who had some insights or observations? Maybe something you already knew, but is being articulated here. I mean, if 2016 is going to be your best year ever, if this year is going to be your best year ever, which of these was most important to you? Maybe you can post some observations you had in the questions box, if you don't mind. Let me just take a moment. As I said, for me, it was about business development conversations. Let's see, we have being the go-to person in my industry was challenging. Okay, good. Getting in front of decision makers. Good. Number 8, feeling like you have to chase clients. So formula to predict revenue. Interesting. It seems to be all of the above. One of you says all of them are insightful. One says framing, mindset, commitment. Let's see, Jennifer says, I really need to be the go-to in my market, working towards that. Yep, still chasing, still having low pricing self-esteem, whether I'm communicating my uniqueness. Good, this is great stuff. I need to be work on being Neapolitan instead of vanilla. Well said. I want to be the go-to person. One of you said my best was a 4, my worst was a 0. So on a scale of 1 to 10, we have work to do. I'd love prospects to come to me. That's a good one. Yeah, once I learned how to do that, and we'll talk about it in this webinar, everything changed for me. Coaching and advising became so much more fun. This is great. Thank you. Let's see. One of you had a 0 on one question that was striking. So good. All right, great. Let me clear the board here, and we'll move on to the next warm-up exercise. Again, I want to just do 2 warm-up exercises, but I appreciate your sharing. It sounds like it's all over the board. There's a lot of work to be done here, which is great. Hold on. Let me just clear all these. All right, so let's continue. Hold on a minute. Let me get rid of all of these. Forgive me. Okay, great. So very, very common theme. So also know that we have a bunch of coaches on the webinar today. Don't beat yourself up over any of this. Everybody seems to be in the same boat, okay? So it's okay, and there are solutions to all of these. So I just want to talk about 6 myths about business development. There's actually a 7th that I was thinking about this morning when I was taking a walk, right? One of the biggest myths that coaches have, we'll call this a bonus myth, is that you think you're in the coaching business, and you're not. Nobody here should think of themselves in the coaching business. As soon as you do, you are no different than a plumber or an electrician, right? You're a generic commodity feature provider, not a benefit provider. But even worse, people know when to call a plumber or an electrician. They don't know when to call a coach. So if you say you're in the coaching business, which is a business pretty much in its infancy, selling something very intangible, you have already positioned yourself behind the 8 ball. Okay, you're actually in 2 businesses. Business 1, instead of coaching, you're in the business of providing solutions to the most pressing challenges that your clients face. In my case, I do leadership and executive coaching with an emphasis on certain industries. So I provide solutions to the problems that leaders and executives in my market face. That's the business I'm in. I'm a solution provider. Okay. Second, we're also in the business of business development. A lot of coaches are super passionate about what they do, and that's great. But this is a business like any other. There's a discipline to it. It's an art, it's a science, but there's a discipline. And you can never forget you're also in the business of business development. It's heartbreaking in coaching because we all want to make a huge difference. We want to have huge impact with our clients. And those of you who are resisting or in denial about the idea that you're in a business like any other and have to do business development are in for a difficult awakening, right? Unless somehow you have a trust fund, some sort of annuity payment, unless you're about to win the Powerball here in the United States tomorrow, which stands at $1.4 billion, you had better know that you're in the business of business development. So that's myth number 0 here. Let me get to some others. Myth 1, clients will come if I am passionate. So you see a lot of coaching programs that talk about how are you showing up? How are you being as a coach? Some invoke the secret or the laws of attraction. All of those things are fine. But it's not enough to get hired. Being passionate is great. We're all passionate. But clients will come only if we're much more than passionate. We have to do the things that are required to attract them. And it's very specific behaviors. Okay, while transformation helps, while having those, that passionate face obviously helps. People want to work with people who are excited and passionate, but some coaches stop there and even get a little bit mystical about the laws of attraction. Well, people are attracted to you when you do the right things, when you are visible to the right decision makers, and when you send the right message. So in today's webinar, what we're going to do is identify those behaviors and take away the mystique. Okay, so yes, be passionate. That will make clients want to work with you, but it's not enough. Myth 2, online marketing is where it's at. You now are probably inundated in your mailboxes with all sorts of LinkedIn consultants, online consultants who would like nothing more than for you to pay them $1,000 to $2,500 a month to take your online marketing to new levels, not to mention website developers who cost a fortune. So I have great news for you. I have tested with my own money a number of these online marketing gurus. Haven't yet earned a return, but I've learned what they do. And the stuff they do is stuff you can do without paying them any money. And online marketing is super duper overhyped right now. It is not where it's at. Nothing is going to beat your ability to have conversations with prospective clients in ways that show you know what you're talking about. You can help them, you can bring value to them and help them solve pressing problems. Now, online marketing is a great enabler, but it's not nearly as complicated as the consultants who are scaring the bejesus out of all of us would have us think. So hopefully you can breathe a sigh of relief and realize that online marketing is a tool, but it is not a panacea. It's not a silver bullet. It's not the be all and end all. For coaches, we're in the relationship business. If we can't form relationships, which is an old school pre-internet type of thing, we're not going to be successful. Okay. By the way, ask questions, challenge me, tell me if you agree or disagree anytime with these. Myth 3, business development has to feel like a treadmill. A lot of coaches have a business model that forces them to chase clients, have short meetings with clients, and then they never see the client again. And that is not a business model that works. Okay, the coaches I know who are most successful have a few clients, and they keep them for a long time, particularly corporate clients, and they're coaching throughout the organization and keep clients for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, maybe more. I've kept a number of clients through to their retirement. Okay, so business development does not have to feel like a treadmill. If it feels like you're chasing clients, you get a client, you lose a client, you chase a client, you get a client, you lose a client, that's not, you're doing something that you can change to be more effective. Okay? Myth 4. I love this one. Focusing is a set in stone commitment that limits my options. What I mean by that is you don't have to get married to a target market. Okay, I think a lot of coaches worry, like, do I have to be the hospital leadership coach? Do I have to be the nonprofit board coach? Look, it's a great thing to do. You could dominate that market, but we live in a world where we can be super agile. And in fact, one of the resolutions we'll talk about in today's webinar is how to think about your niche, your marketplace. I'm going to give you 3 ways, in fact, that might give you relief and take the pressure off putting all of your eggs in one basket. Okay. Myth 5, I have to call myself a coach. Now, this one might be hearsay to a lot of you. But I believe if you call yourself a coach, you're not taking the highest possible strategic ground with your clients. You limit your options. Most successful coaches I've interviewed, those who are making $500,000 or more, don't just call themselves a coach. They're facilitators. They're trainers. They're writers. They're speakers. Essentially, they're aspiring to be trusted advisors by solving problems in the way that works best for their clients. So I call myself an advisor. ATN Associates, Leadership and Executive Advisors. And under that umbrella, I do a number of things, but I'm always trying to become a true trusted advisor to my client. Now, don't use trusted advisor on your card. That's something you earn. It's like saying I have integrity. You wouldn't put that on your card either. Okay? Yeah, one of you says business thinker. something like that. But coach immediately puts you into, hey, let me send you over to HR so you can be seen as a commodity, apply to RFPs, and maybe if you're lucky, get a couple of hours of coaching. Does that make sense? And again, we'll talk more about that shortly. And finally, as we've said before, it has to feel like I'm doing the chasing. The best coaches, consultants, and advisors set themselves up as experts who are known for bringing value and solving problems. As a result, clients come to you. Now, the downside of this shift in thinking is that you have to do some work to be seen as the go-to advisor. You have to get a lot more people into your, let's call it a consent funnel or marketing funnel, a lot of people who are aware of you so that you can keep educating them, keep showing them value, but then they come to you. And you don't have to chase them. In fact, people respect you more if you're not doing the chasing. Okay? So those are 6 myths. Again, we're just in our warm-up phase here. We've done a quick 8-point assessment. We've done 6 myths with the bonus myth that you're in 2 businesses, not the business of coaching. And again, let me just take a moment. Are there any questions you have about any of these? Did any stand out? Any you disagree with? Any that resonate with you particularly? And then we're going to jump into our resolutions. I'll give it a 3 count. Okay, good. Yeah, one of you says, I like the term advisor versus coach. Good. One says, when you're starting off in this profession, how can you avoid the chasing? Well, I did a lot of chasing my first 6 months, and it got me nowhere except feeling demeaned. And the way I got my first client was by doing a seminar about strategic planning for nonprofits in front of a group. It was a hosted event with an association of nonprofits. They agreed. It took me a while to get permission to do this seminar. I didn't even charge for it. 25 people came. And at the end, 3 people came up to me and 2 people hired me to coach them on strategy and facilitate their strategy. So I didn't have to chase them at all. They came to me because they saw I was a credible expert on something. Okay. Yeah. One says my clients, and yeah, another way one of you mentions is clients. If you're a good coach, clients keep coming back for more value. They come to you. Good. One of you says myth 7, it happens overnight. Right. Great one. It doesn't necessarily. For some, I've seen it. I actually knew one guy. It did happen overnight for him. But for me, it was a slog. It felt like pushing a boulder up a hill for a long time. Great. Yeah, there's some nice comments here. One is you're developing relationships, not a series of first dates. Very nice. Thanks, Terry. Good. Okay, great comments. So let's keep going. And now let's jump into some resolutions. Again, as I said, I'm going to give you, I believe, 8 resolutions. At the end of the 6th resolution, we'll talk about if you want to keep with this program and go deeper on these topics and more, you can, or you can tune out. But either way, then we'll get to the last 2 most important resolutions. Okay, resolution number 1, stay accountable with a dashboard. When coaches come to me and consultants and others, and I'm talking about people from big professional services firms as well, and they tell me that they're not earning what they want to earn, I do a little time study with them. And I also ask them what their formula is. You know, like how many speeches do they have to give to get a client? Or how many clients do they get from one speech? How many referral conversations are they having a week? And what turns out to be the case a lot of the time is that these individuals are not holding themselves accountable at the same standard they would be if they were employed by a large firm, especially the ones who are solo. They're sitting around, quite frankly, or they're not doing the right activities. They're not spending enough time. And so what each of you should have is a dashboard that ends up in a formula for you that you can track every month, really every week, every month, every quarter, every year, that naturally leads to the number you want. And so let me take you through this. And by the way, you could do this overall. I break out this formula by marketing tactic. So I have one for webinars, one for referrals, one for speeches. okay? And it all adds up to the revenue goal I want. So at the top, you see the revenue goal that you want for the year or whatever time period it is. You need to know your average engagement size. Okay, I typically shoot for a $15,000 to a $20,000 initial engagement with a client, and I get it. Okay, but it took me a while to figure that out. And so if you divide that out, you know the number of single first-time engagements you would need. But the good news is there's a repeat rate, right? My $15,000 to $20,000 engagement is for 6 months, and most of my clients renew. So I actually only need half the clients. And in fact, a lot of those clients spread me out to other clients in the organization. Okay, so given that, I come up with line 5, the number of new engagements I'm going to need. And then I keep working backwards. There's a conversion rate I'm going to have, right? I'm going to get a certain number of qualified prospects. A qualified prospect tells me they have the money and tells me they have a big enough problem to hire an outsider to solve it with them. And, typically my conversion rate differs. If it's like the seminar I talked about before, again, 3 people came up to me, 2 people ended up becoming clients. With referral conversations, if I get a really good referral, that's typically 80–85%. Something I get off the internet is lower. And so I have a different conversion rate depending on the source, because a lot of it depends on how much they already trust you and know you going in. But we're not done yet, because there's another conversion rate. People will come up and be interested, and you have no idea whether they're looking just for some free advice, whether they have a budget or not, whether they'll ever hire you. And so you have to get good at screening those people out quickly. At the end of the day, though, what you come up with is a number of interested prospects you need to reach out to. And you have to hit them. You have to get a certain number of people aware of you so that these people become interested. And that leads to the next part of the dashboard. Before I get there, though, do you see what I'm doing? I'm doing a PowerPoint presentation. We could do this in Excel, which is where I keep my stuff. And I have it down to a science now. When I first started, I didn't. And I had to experiment and figure out these numbers. But it takes so much pressure off me right now. Because I know that if I do these things, I'll hit my revenue goal. It's a science. It's done. When I didn't know, I had to experiment until I did know. All right, Stefan says, what's my way of cutting through the tire kickers and getting rid of them? I'll share that at the end. That's actually resolution number 8. Thanks, Stefan. Okay, the numbers in parentheses, by the way, are the row numbers that you divide by to get to that thing. It's a formula. Like number of engagements required is average engagement size, revenue goal divided by average engagement size, right? So it just tells you to divide those lines out. So what that leads to for me is a set of activities that I'm going to do without fail so that it's on autopilot. I mean, sure, I still have to do the activities, but I have a monthly calendar of activities that I'm going to do without fail that I know will result in my getting the revenue that I want to achieve, okay? And I think a lot of coaches don't do this. So I know how many referral conversations I'm going to have in my network. And of course, I'll break this out. I know how many referral conversations I'll have with clients. I have some alliance relationships with people. We refer each other business regularly. And so I know how many of those I can expect based on our agreements. I'm going to have some reach outs to clients I want to work with. I do some reach outs to interesting clients. I do educational marketing, and I call this live touches. Like, how many people do I want to get in front of in terms of an audience? So if a healthcare association contacts me to speak or do a seminar, I'm going to make sure that happens. Typically for me, once a quarter, I want to do a really nice seminar or speech. And other educational marketing. Non-live touches means blogs, videos that I post, and then there's a row for other conversations. Okay, if you're not doing this, you are driving with the rear view mirror. And by that, I mean 2 things. You're probably looking at the past instead of creating the future. And we know that when you turn the rear view mirror of your car left or right, nothing happens to the tires. You're not really in control. And if you're just starting, yeah, Charles, it's a matter of experimentation initially. That's what you want to do. You want to get out of taking this personally, right? A lot of us as coaches, we love what we do, so it's hard not to take it personally. And we want to treat ourselves as a laboratory scientist. And we want to get this down to a science. And you can do it. Okay, so again, I know with a seminar, if I can get 25 people in a room, at the end, I'm going to get anywhere from 1 to 5 people who come up to me. And I know my conversion rate is pretty solid there. Okay, I know how many referral conversations I have to have in a week. And by the way, it's a lot. A lot of coaches don't have enough of those conversations. And the only way for you to know is to try to keep records and see how many prospects did I think I would get, how many did I actually get. And that means if you didn't hit your goal, you either have to do more or do more effectively. Okay, so already I know some of you don't like this because it means holding yourself as accountable as you have to hold your clients. And I'm sorry about that, but this is a business like any other. And so your resolution number 1 is get yourself accountable with a dashboard, with a formula that predicts your revenues. It will take so much pressure off you when you know what you have to do and you just get out there and do it. And of course, if you're early on, there's a lot of learning that has to take place. My first 6 months, I hit zero revenue, zero interest. And I got some hard feedback from someone sitting in front of a Starbucks, a potential referral source, who said, I'm not going to hire you. I'm not going to refer you to anyone. And it was the best thing she ever said because I could ask why. She explained and I fixed it. And that changed everything. Okay. So resolution number 1, get yourself a dashboard to hold yourself accountable. Any questions about this before we move to number 2? Let me see. Okay, so there's a request to go back to the formula. Sure. And again, for those of you in the Center for Executive Coaching and who continue with the program, this will be in Excel, right? We're going to set you up with an Excel formula. But essentially, if we start at the bottom, you have a certain number of interested prospects you have to attract based on the activities you do. Some of those will convert to qualified prospects, meaning they have money and they have a problem big enough to hire you. Some of those, hopefully between 70 and 85% will convert to a new engagement. There'll be some repeat clients, and that will get you the number of engagements you need times the engagement size to hit your revenue goal. Okay, good. And again, we'll talk about this more as you continue. In fact, if you continue with the program, every single meeting we start with your dashboard and how you're doing. You're going to be held so accountable you won't know what to do with yourself. Okay. Resolution number 2, focus on profitable niches. So one of you was asking, what was I doing wrong that kept me from getting clients? One of the things I was doing wrong was I was marketing myself as someone who could solve any problem for anyone, anytime. I was like your community smart guy coach. And again, I mean, my face is blushing as I tell you this because I can't believe I did it. And yet when I look at about 80 to 85% of coaches out there, they're doing exactly the same thing, just not as arrogantly and obnoxiously as I did. Okay. So you got to focus on profitable niches. What is a niche? First of all, a niche, there's one like coach training company that drives me nuts because to them, a niche is like life coaching, career coaching, executive coaching. That's not a niche. I'm talking about 5 different ways that you can have a niche. Okay, one is industry focus. I do a lot of that. I specialize in emerging technology and technology companies, healthcare, particularly delivery systems, universities, professional services, and nonprofits. When I first started, my first 2 clients were, one was in a technology CEO, and then the other 2 were nonprofit executive directors. And I've kept that up ever since and also expanded into other areas based on referrals. So that's industry. You can also go with title or function, like chief financial officer, chief information officer. That's basically what IBM does, right? They will provide every solution for chief information officers, marketing folks, HR folks, people moving into new positions. 3, you can go geographic, which works best if you combine it with another of the 2 niches I just mentioned. Like the leading executive coach in Boston, Massachusetts. Well, that works better if you say I'm the leading executive coach to biotechnology executives in Boston, Massachusetts. So that's geography. You can do demographics, right? Men, women, millennials, baby boomers working with millennials. And you can do psychographic. Psychographic is like a common hobby or a set of values, like faith-based owners, owners of businesses who are faith-based, or um, socially conscious or responsible business owners, that sort of thing. The key to a good niche is that you can reach them easily. They have a problem, they have money, they're willing to spend the money. If you can't reach a niche easily, then you're in trouble. It's hard to reach, for instance, a company that's about to have a bunch of layoffs. It's hard to reach someone who's about to go through a divorce. There's no list of people who are about to go through a divorce. Okay, but there are websites, there are ways to do it. The easier it is to reach your niche, the better. Okay, now many people feel a lot of pressure, like, oh my God, I don't want to commit. Some to the point that they think everybody's a potential client, and what they find is that they have a 0% conversion rate, as I did, right? I had 7 billion clients when I started, but with a 0% conversion rate, having 7 billion prospective clients is not particularly lucrative. Much better to specialize, say at that time I specialized in I think there were 550 nonprofits in my county, or groups of counties. And, I ended up working with about 20% of them by the end. So I'm going to teach you 3 ways to niche. One is the cheetah approach. You can see a picture of a cheetah chasing what seems to be a poor animal that is about to become lunch. And here's what cheetahs do that's really interesting. They run super fast. And when they see prey, they just go, right? They run really quickly. But about halfway through, if it's clear they're not going to catch their prey, they stop and they save their energy. Okay, so what this means for you as a coach, and this is essentially how I started, although I didn't articulate it this way when I started, was, I designed a program, strategic planning for nonprofit executives. And I knew there was only one place I could deliver it in my county. It was that nonprofit association. And so I went and started spending time there. If they had said no, I would have moved to a different type of prey. I would have had to have. So the cheetah approach is about looking for prey, testing, going really hard for a short time, but realizing you're not dead if you don't catch that prey, right? At the same time, I was a cheetah in technology. I found a group that let me speak in front of a bunch of CEOs in technology, small business CEOs, $5 million up to $50 million. And one of them hired me specifically for helping with engaging his team, his people. He was a techie. So the cheetah approach is get out there, look at a target market and test it quickly, but in depth. Don't be a dabbler. Come up with a really nice approach. Run 60 miles an hour. Do what you do well. So that's the cheetah approach. Does that make sense? It's really nice because it takes the pressure off. I know a coach not working with me, and I'm glad, because what she's doing is spending tens of thousands of dollars on a gorgeous website for a niche that she hasn't even tested yet. So that would be like a cheetah running a mile at 60 miles an hour and killing themselves if the cheetah doesn't catch the prey. We live in a world today where you can test ideas very, very quickly. 2, the 70-30 approach. The 70-30 approach means you spend 70% of your time focused on a target market, one target market. You're going to go deep. You're going to do everything you can. In my case, it was nonprofits for a while, or you could do 70% on 2. It was actually nonprofits and tech. But you leave 30% open to what comes your way. And this for me has often led to new niches, because when I was coaching some nonprofits, this consortium of engineers came up to me that I met through the bookkeeper of an engineer who was also on the board of a nonprofit, and asked me to do some coaching for their group. And that led to a huge engagement. And it got me into some engineers, but also into some universities. So what this does is take the pressure off. Okay. And again, this is for those of you who, if you're like me, I didn't have a huge network of people who knew me when I started. If you have a huge network, start with your network. Start with people you know. But even there, they have to know how you're positioning yourself and how you provide value. So both of these approaches help. The third way is the chameleon approach. Today, I use the chameleon approach. My practice is advanced to the point where if anybody comes to me, right, and I get lots of referrals now because I'm pretty established. So if someone comes to me and they tell me they're in the auto industry, even if I haven't done much work in the auto industry, I have enough of a reference to ask great questions. And I'll tell you what some of the simple questions are to ask that work with any person in any industry. And I have a good set of answers to objections like, hey, you're not in the auto industry. I can say, well, that's exactly why you should hire me. You have plenty of people in the auto industry and your company's a mess. So how about we look at someone with a fresh perspective? So the chameleon approach means when I hear that somebody has a problem, I can ask good questions quickly enough to often get an entry point in there. Okay, this works also very well if you have a nice network, which again, I didn't until now. So those are just 3 ideas for how to think about a niche that maybe, I hope, takes the pressure off the idea of putting all of your eggs in one basket. Does that make sense? I'm going to stop there because we're about to move on to the 3rd resolution. But your resolution is pick an approach and a market that is profitable. Don't be all things to all people, because while you might love the illusion of having hundreds of millions of clients, the fact is you're going to have a very low conversion rate. Okay, does that make sense? And again, we'll talk about, if you continue with the program, we'll talk about, and I'll personally consult with any of you who want it on how your niche is. Okay. Great. Let's see. Would you volunteer just to get in the door of your preferred niche? No. No. Some people think you should volunteer. I don't want to volunteer. I don't want to discount my fees. I want to be on equal footing with my clients at all times. The minute I volunteer, 2 things happen. 1, I've just told them that I don't value what I do, so why should they? And 2, I find people are not coachable unless they have something at stake. And money is a great thing to have at stake to get people to be coachable. Okay, could I summarize the 70-30 again? Yes, the 70-30 just means you spend 70% of your time with 1 or maybe 2 niches, and 30% you're a generalist. Just be open to what comes. Okay. Great. Let's keep going. Good questions here. One says, well, okay, on the free, what about pro bono work as a community service? I suppose, yeah. I think as community service, it's okay, but I'm not going to do pro bono work unless I sit down with my client and say, listen, here's the risk. You're not paying anything, and I'm afraid you're not going to be coachable or committed to this process. What kind of agreement can I expect from you? What kind of commitment can I expect for you, given that you're not paying anything? So great question. By the way, I can hear the low pricing self-esteem coming through, right? If people, you don't go to Walmart and say, hey, I'm not sure I want your lettuce. How about giving me a free lettuce head and I'll come back from now on if I like your lettuce? No, Walmart's going to charge you for the lettuce. Okay. Resolution 3, compelling marketing message. Now, I am not going to bore you to death with how to do a compelling marketing message. I have a better way than boring you to death. We are going to read an excerpt from one of the best marketing books ever, The Sneetches and Other Stories by Dr. Seuss. He is a great writer, and it turns out that when he needs to be, he's a great marketer. Does everyone know the book, The Sneetches? It's not one of his better known, but it's actually a brilliant book about tolerance, racism, sexism, and it's essentially about these characters called the Sneetches, some of whom have a star belly. See the star on the belly here, and some of whom do not. And the ones who do not are looked down upon by the ones who do. And there's an enterprising character in the story who sees this as a marketing opportunity. So here we go. Then one day, it seems, while the plain belly Sneetches were moping and doping alone on the beaches, just sitting there wishing their bellies had stars, a stranger zipped up in the strangest of cars. Okay, so what do we have here? We have a problem that's immediate. You can't sell coaching unless there's a problem that's immediate. Okay, you don't go to, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, hey, I need a coach, or I need some emotional intelligence, or I need some neuroscience. That's not how it works. There's a problem that's causing someone to mope on the beach. My friends, he announced in a voice clear and clean, my name is Sylvester McMonkey McBean, and I've heard of your troubles. Okay, so he's saying, look, I get your troubles. A good marketing message starts with a problem. Look at coach messages. They don't. They start with, I am great. I've heard you're unhappy. Once you've established the problem, you can move to the solution. No one wants to read about you and your credentials until they know you know they have a problem and you understand it and you can fix it. So he says, but I can fix that. I'm the fix it up chappie. I've come here to help you. I have what you need and my prices are low and I work with great speed and my work is 100% guaranteed. So look what he did. He's got the benefits, he's got the solution, the benefits, and he has an edge. His prices are low, he's fast, and he even has a guarantee to take the risk away. And then he has a call to action, which we all need. Then quickly, Sylvester McMonkey McMean put together a very peculiar machine, and he said, you want stars like a star belly sneetch? Again, there's the solution and the problem all in one. My friends, you can have them for $3 each. Just pay me your money and hop right aboard. And he makes a fortune. Okay, there's the call to action. Now, the call to action for coaches does not have to be hire me or have a free consultation. We'll talk about that shortly. You need a softer type of call to action than Sylvester McMonkey McBean. Okay, we'll break down what he did, but notice he's not done yet. Dr. Seuss has this character identifying a new opportunity because it turns out now everybody has stars and so nobody has status. This kind of sound like the International Coach Federation. But then up came McBean with a very sly wink and he said, things are not quite as bad as you think. So you don't know who's who. That's perfectly true. Once again, a problem, right? He doesn't say, come get coaching. He identifies with a clear problem. He's not in the ocean trying to pat his hands on the water, making a wave happen. He's riding a wave. That's what we have to do. We have to find a wave to ride. The client tells us the wave. That's perfectly true. But come with me, friends. Do you know what I'll do? I'll make you, again, the best sneetches on the beaches. That's the benefit. They want to be the best. And all it will cost you is $10 eaches. Belly stars are no longer in style, said McBean. What you need is a trip through my star off machine. This wondrous contraption will take off your stars so you won't look like sneetches that have them on theirs. And that handy machine, working very precisely, removed all the stars from their tummies quite nicely. And then they, whatever, paraded about. They got the value. They said, we know who is who. Now there isn't a doubt. The best kind of sneetches are sneetches without. So once again, he responded to the problem. That is a brilliant marketing machine. Why? Great headline. In his case, his headline was this fancy car coming up, but you need a great headline with a primary benefit or a quick stop struggling, something that's emotional, an opportunity they can seize and be excited, or a problem they can stop struggling with or stop tolerating. Then you need the problem statement. You have stars on your belly. It's making you unhappy with logical and emotional consequences. Then a segue to your solutions and benefits. I have a machine that can help you. It will make you the best. Your unique advantage and edge. He's fast. He has a guarantee. Low cost. Proof. In his case, the proof was right there with the machine. You might need testimonials, case studies, a book, whatever. And a call to action that provides great value with no risk to the prospect. In the case of coaching clients, often it's a series of webinars. It can be an ebook. It can be a newsletter, things like that. That is your formula for a guaranteed message that works. Let me take questions, and then I'll walk you through five problems with coach marketing messages. And in fact, while you ask questions, I'll take you through these anyway. Here's some big issues with coach messages. One, the wrong U to I ratio. Go to your website now. Go to all your marketing materials. Count how many times you use the word I, referring to yourself or your practice, and how many times you use the word you. You should be using the word you, referring to your clients or prospects, 2 or 3 times more than you use the word I, especially at the beginning. You shouldn't see much I. This is the one place where Sylvester McMonkey McBean, maybe I would edit out his marketing message a bit. Okay. 2, a sure way to turn off prospects is by talking about yourself first. Ask questions about them, and I'll share with you at the end some questions that are easy to ask. Okay, there's a great book by Anthony Parinelli called Selling to Veto, where Veto stands for very important top officer. And in that book, he gives some nice cold call scripts. I don't cold call. I don't think you should cold call, but it's an interesting book. And letters where the first paragraph is, you don't even say your name. You just talk about either something interesting that the client or prospective client cares about. You know, a huge savings a competitor had thanks to you, or a fact about the market that's driving your client crazy. And then they should ask, well, who is this? You don't start talking about yourself until you've earned the right. Okay, again, Parinelli, Anthony Parinelli, Parinelli. Next, why you? Every single one of you has a superpower. Each of you has an edge that sets you apart. And it's not the edge that clients tell you about after you've gotten value. It's the edge that attracted them to hire you in the first place. What's your edge? Why you? If you're just another coach with a coaching credential who learned at a huge school, that is not going to cut it. You have to know why you. Is it your experience? Is it results you've gotten, even if you weren't as a coach? Is it some knowledge you have? Is it depth? Is it your toolkit? What is it that sets you apart? If you don't know, you better find out. It better matter to your clients. It's not you're a good listener, you have intuition, you have integrity. No, clients, again, don't wake up and say, I need a good listener in my life. I'm willing to pay top dollar for that. What is it about you that really sets you apart? 4, where's the proof? We live in a skeptical time. And so your marketing message better have some testimonials, case studies, credentials, awards, educational marketing, you know, that shows that you're smart and you know your stuff. There's all sorts of ways of getting proof. Showing up all over social media, having videos, you know, things that show that you really can get the results, that you're not another fly-by-night coach who tries to wing it with open-ended questions that drive clients crazy. And 5, many coaches have a wrong call to action. Nobody wants a free consultation. Okay, that's too much. Start small. You know, let them download a nice little 20-page ebook. Let them get on a newsletter that's not a generic newsletter, but really gives them great tips every week or great articles. Have a blog, you know, and invite people to take an assessment related to the blog. All of those are great calls to action that get people in what J. Conrad Levinson called your consent funnel. Meaning you can follow up and say, hey, if you like that, how would you like to be on this webinar? It's free. Come on, get some more education about this issue. And then maybe you can say, hey, I'm speaking over at this university. Maybe you'd like to come and see me there. Then you can follow up and say, I notice you've been on these 3 things. Would you like to have a talk? And now maybe they'll talk to you. Does that make sense? So those are 5 problems with marketing messages, but if in doubt, read Dr. Seuss. That McMonkey McBean character really knew how to do it, and it's a great template. All right, let me stop there before I move on to the next. And again, if you choose to continue with this program, I'll review your marketing message. But when I go to coach websites, I truly get nauseous. I feel bad for the coaches about 2/3 of the time, if not more, because you're just saying stuff that everybody else is saying. You just look like, you know, just yet another struggling, desperate coach. Don't, okay? You're better than that. Anyone who's taking the time to be on this is better than that. All right, resolution number 4, have a portfolio of solutions to get into clients. What does that mean? It means you need to think about different ways to get into your clients, essentially. If you're just a coach, you only have 1 or 2 ways in, right? One-on-one coaching and group coaching. I don't do that. I listen to my clients. And when I say I too, I'm referring to colleagues that I've interviewed who are making a great income as a coach and really recognized. I mean, look, Marshall Goldsmith, right? Probably the best branded coach on the planet. He does speeches. He facilitates. He leads seminars. He has a couple of different coaching programs. Now, people will hire Marshall Goldsmith to read the phone book for $50,000. We don't have that luxury, but he does it right. And so here's what you should have. You need a way to find an opening. And if you look at this chart on the left, you see that price goes up with access to you on the right. The more people pay, the more access to you they get. And if you look at the left to the right, that represents how many people might be interested and take action. So something that's a low price, it makes sense that lots of people might want a free ebook. Fewer people might want to pay for some sort of leadership group circle, some sort of membership group. Fewer people might pay a lot of money to have you lead a seminar. And the least number of people will probably pay for one-on-one coaching. But you have to have a way to get in. There's assessments, trainings, facilitation. I offer people the High Performance Coaching Academy so that people can lead group training for their high potential employees. I often offer a succession planning roundtable for CEOs who want to think about exiting their business. So you have a number of group coaching options. You want to have a portfolio of products that appeals to different budget levels, many of whom will need to do something low cost first before they have trust, before they see that you're credible and can really get value. So you have to find that opening. I've become very good, as of many of my clients, in the colleagues, in the $10,000 to $20,000 coaching engagement. If you're working at the right level of a certain organization, the people you're working with can almost always write a check for somewhere in that range without going to anybody else. And so often one of my first questions will be, how much of a check can you write without going to the board or your boss? And I'm going to try to design an initial engagement to get in there for that amount, because I don't have to go through a lot of layers and I can get hired quickly. I have assessment tools, so I can assess someone for under $1,000. I have actually two, one for $2,500, one for about $600. Once I assess someone, I know them really well, they know me, and they see the kind of value I can bring. I have a client now that I've been working with for years. We started with a 2-day facilitated retreat. That's what they hired me for. And during that retreat, new issues emerged that they wanted help with, and that led to new issues. But I got in there with a simple retreat. I've shared with you a seminar that I did for free. That was a marketing seminar. Sometimes I'll do a seminar at, I do a lot of seminars for pay, and that leads to new work. Sometimes with a client, we'll do a small pilot. I don't want to sell $1 million engagement. I said, let's just try it with 5 of your managers. Let's see how it goes, test the ROI. And if it works, let's roll it out. Okay? So that's your next resolution. You need to find a way to get in there. That's why just limiting yourself to being a coach can really hurt you. Does that resolution make sense? Any questions? All right. We're going to do a couple more resolutions, and then I want to take you to the program to see if you want to continue. Those already in the Certified Executive Coach program, you're part of this program, so you don't have to worry about that. Resolution 5. We need to use psychology to win more engagements. So what do we need? What do I mean by that? So a lot of coaches, it's funny, you're taking all these things about neuroscience and emotional intelligence, but you're not using it to win engagements. So we have to understand that business development, there's a whole psychology behind it. So first of all, do you have the psychology of an effective business developer? Do you feel like you're on equal footing with prospects, just like you are with clients? In other words, do you feel like they're doing a favor when they talk to you? Do you follow up with them so much that you come across as someone as desperate as a nerd like me looking for a prom date in high school? Are you stalking them? Or are you on equal footing where if it seems like they're giving a red flag that they're not interested, they don't have the budget, you call them on it. You say, listen, it doesn't seem like you're as interested as you were at the beginning. Should we stop? You have to have the mindset of being on equal footing or finding clients or prospects that you can be on equal footing with. Are you efficient? In other words, you have to focus on the sales efficiency ratio. If I get a client and it feels like they're just all about, let me think about it, or maybe, or in 6 months, I know they're not going to hire me. And so I talk to them about it because I'd rather have a no. A no cuts it clean and I don't have to waste my time anymore. I can't tell you how many people call me looking for career advice, looking for free coaching about a situation. And I don't coach them on that. I say, listen, that's what we do if you hire me. Would you be interested in talking about how an engagement might look? I have the mindset that my time is valuable, my abilities are valuable. And I'm not going to let anybody waste that time. That's the mindset of the business developer. I remember a seminar recently where I challenged someone to have a business development conversation where I pretended to be a prospective client talking about an issue. And you know what he did? He went right into coaching as if he was already hired by me. He started trying to solve my problem for free. You don't want to do that. The business developer has a particular mindset, which is, am I talking to someone who has a big enough problem to hire me? Do they have the money? And if so, what's the best way to move forward? And if not, how can I politely get out of there and follow up later? I'm not burning bridges. I'm not being rude. I'm balancing results and relationships. So I ask you, do you have the mindset of the business developer? Can you hold a prospect as accountable as you would a coaching client? And part of that is some of you have some common limiting beliefs. Like, I don't have enough value to offer. I'm not smart enough. I don't have a degree. I can't be on equal footing with CEOs, even though you're a CEO. You're a CEO, right? I'm not going to coach the CEO of Ford Motor Company. I don't want to. I live at home, work from a home office, have a family I love. I'm not traveling around with the CEO of Ford, but there's 14 million CEOs in the United States alone. So I have figured out that there are certain CEOs I really do want to work with. You have, I'm not good enough. I don't know enough. You have to get as good at reframing those beliefs as I assume you help your clients do as a coach. And so let me share with you how to do that. There's two ways to reframe here. One is an if-then statement. So if someone says, I don't have enough value to offer, what I found often works is if I just educate people about how to solve key problems, people will be interested. Do you see what we're doing there? We're finding a non-competing alternative to a deeply held limiting belief and just coming up with something behavioral and granular that somebody can do in the context of building a practice. I'm not smart enough. I remember a coach who had that. A number of coaches do. And the way I've seen people reframe that is if I focus on them and not me, I'll uncover issues and ways to work together. In other words, stop thinking about whether you're smart enough. Focus on the client's needs. Forget it. What are their issues? I can't be on equal footing with CEOs. That's where you could say the client knows enough. I bring a process that goes beyond intellectual knowledge and makes results happen. So that's more of a creative reframing. Similarly, the one I just mentioned, there's 14 million CEOs in the country, the USA alone. I can find enough CEOs that relate to me. Do you see what we're doing there? So I guess what I'm challenging you to do as a resolution is just as you would work with your clients to help them reframe their limiting perceptions, take a moment, figure out your biggest limiting belief, and I want you to figure out a way to reframe it. The other way to do it that I really like is that's exactly why you should hire me, or changing strengths to weaknesses. See, in marketing, nothing is absolute. Everything is subjective. Everything is relative. So one person's strength can quickly be turned to a weakness. I don't have an MBA. Well, that's exactly why you should hire me. You have plenty of MBAs in your company and still you're not getting things done. I have what your MBAs don't have. And specifically, that's the ability to look at the things that go beyond the analytical, beyond the left brain, like relationships and what it takes to show up as a leader. I'm too old. Well, that's easy, right? I bring a practical, old school perspective that gets back to the leadership and communication fundamentals you might be missing in today's internet world. I'm too young. Well, I bring a fresh perspective, and that could help your leaders understand how to engage and mobilize a younger generation, or it can allow me to relate to high potentials in their 20s and help them. Marketing is great because you can turn any of your perceived weaknesses into a strength and any of your colleagues or competitors' strengths into a perceived weakness. Does that psychology make sense, what we're talking about there? Let me just pause there because this takes time. And again, I'm happy to work with anybody who continues, but I just want to make sure you're thinking. Every one of you, as Pee Wee Herman says, has a big butt. And he means B-U-T, not B-U-T-T, although both could be true. And you got to figure out what your butt is, and you have to get over it. You have to reframe it. You have to turn it into a strength. Now let's talk about the client, because again, a lot of coaches fail to get inside the head of a client and why they hire us. Why do you see a mailbox on this page? Because you have to answer the mail that the client sends you. You don't want to send them a letter, answer the mail. So here are things on the left that most clients are thinking, right? And some of this you can read. David Maister is very good about this. I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want an outsider learning about my weaknesses. I want you to talk about me. I don't want to hear about you, right? Which is a big problem in today's narcissistic world. A lot of coaches are narcissists and just want to talk about themselves. Show me practical value, usually quickly, or get out. And please don't add stuff to what I'm telling you. I want to know you've heard me. So the implications for you are ask questions. Don't make a pitch. The days of pitching, making a sales pitch, are over, which is great news for us because what do we do as coaches? We ask powerful questions. But that's what they want. They want to talk about themselves and they want to hear great questions. 2, you want to establish yourself as a credible expert, not a fly-by-night coach, not a credential from an association that our clients have never heard of. You want to have a unique set of valuable solutions and show yourself as an expert. Sometimes just asking questions the right way can do it, but it's nice to have some blogs, be in some LinkedIn groups where you're contributing and writing some articles. And don't evangelize about the latest leadership fad that you happen to be excited about. Your clients hate that the same way. Look, on Sundays, how many of you have had a religious family or group knock on your door? And they're very nice, and they want to convert you to their religion. And what do you want to do when that happens? I can tell you what I want to do. I want to change my door to one of these glass doors where they can see in and see if we're home, to one of these solid doors, and I want to get rid of them as quickly as possible. And a lot of coaches are the same way. You don't know you're doing it. You're so passionate about, whatever, emotional intelligence, neuroscience, whatever the latest best-selling book is, that you're turning your clients off because you haven't asked about them. Again, ride the wave. Don't create a wave. Figure out their wave. Organizations have all sorts of initiatives that aren't working. Figure out what those are and ride them home. Don't spend all that energy to create a huge wave. You can't do it. Find something they face. That's the psychology of getting a client. And too many coaches don't do that. Too many are marketing this thing called coaching as if it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. It's not. It's a solution to a problem. Find the problem and show you're credible. Okay? Now let's move to probably one of the more valuable pieces. 6, 7, and 8. We're getting to the meat. Let me stop here, though, and take any questions you might have. And I hope this is valuable. I hope you're taking away at least one thing from today. I hope it's not too much. But let me stop here. Any questions that have come up so far? One says, do you think Toastmaster type training would be helpful with confidence in speaking? Yeah, Toastmasters is a great group. You won't necessarily get clients, but you will definitely develop more confidence as a speaker. Great question. Okay, the rest of you are saying keep going, valuable. I appreciate it. Good. All right, so resolution 6, this is the big one. I have great news for you in that there are only 4 ways to get visible. And you don't have to spend a lot of money to get visible, to reach decision makers. Okay, so let me take some time with this and then I'll tell you about, again, the other 44 modules. If you're interested, if you're not, it won't take more than 3 to 5 minutes. So only 4 ways to get visible, and here they are. Okay, take a moment, write them down if you wish. There's relationship marketing, that's referrals and alliances. Educational marketing, speaking, webinars, writing. You're educating your client about a problem you and they know they have and how they can solve it. You're bringing value through education. In fact, that's the C shift in marketing today for professionals, is it's all moving towards relationship marketing, educational marketing. Leadership roles. Every one of you should have at least one leadership role, like being a board member or on a committee at your chamber, not just a member of your chamber, but being a leader where you're getting in front of the types of people who can make introductions for you or hire you. And online marketing supports all of these, and it's not nearly as complicated or expensive or convoluted as all these so-called experts are making it out to be. So let me take you through them. Referrals. None of you, I would bet, I'll bet most, well, I don't want to say none, but I'll bet most of you are not having enough referral conversations. If you want to do one thing this year to get more clients, I want you to increase the number of conversations you're having with people who can introduce you to other people who can hire you, open doors for you, get you speaking engagements, whatever it is. I want you to increase the number you're doing now by 50%, even 100%. I can almost guarantee you that most of you aren't doing nearly enough work getting referrals. You should be forming alliances with complementary professionals who aren't coaches, maybe attorneys, financial planners, software developers, whatever it is, other people who solve problems for your target market. I've worked very well with an investment banker who refers me to some emerging technology companies in his portfolio. And just having referral conversations. That doesn't mean word of mouth. You're not waiting for people to come to you. You carve out time asking clients and people in your network to say, you know, look, can we sit down and talk about how we can help each other? You help them first. Coach them. You're a coach. Say, look, how can I help you? What are you trying to achieve? You know, even come prepared with introductions that you can make for them, doors you can open for them, articles, all sorts of things. And then educate them about the types of people you want to meet. That was my biggest mistake when I first started out. I wanted to meet anybody. And only when I said, hey, I work with executive directors of nonprofits, and they typically have three problems. You know, their board's not working well, their people are burning out, or they're struggling because they're passionate about what they do, but they don't really know how to lead and engage people. You know, who do you know in the nonprofit world? That was so much more effective than saying, hey, I graduated from this great business school. I just came from this consulting firm. I can help anybody with any problem. Who can you introduce me to? And then you jog their memory with questions. You know, I know you play tennis here. Who do you know at the tennis club who's a nonprofit executive director? You know, who else in your company's division might be struggling with issues of X, Y, and Z? I know you go to this church. You know, who in your church might be a good business person or leader that I could meet? And then once they give you somebody, right, my goal in any meeting is to come out with 2 referrals. I call them introductions. Referrals is too much pressure. And when they give me a name, I say, well, tell me why you brought that person up. What do I need to know about them? What's their style? What are their issues? We figure out how the introduction will happen. Should I email them softly? Will they make the introduction? And I'm real soft. I say, listen, Joe, I met with Joe, great guy. He said, you know, maybe we should meet. You know, I have no idea if there's something here, but could we at least talk on the phone for a few minutes? And that's it. And I'll say, look, Joe and I are working on helping him engage and mobilize employees. As you know, he's a great techie, great CEO of his company, technologically speaking. But sometimes he's frustrated engaging employees. He suggested, you know, that you and he have shared complaints about that too. Would you be interested in meeting or talking more about that? I have no idea. It's real soft. And then I let the other person know how it went. Okay, so we're going to practice this in the program, but I just want, you know, those of you who are relying on word of mouth, you're being lazy. Okay, if people are actually coming to you and remembering you when they have so much else going on, you are a great coach and you're leaving money on the table. You need to learn a systematic approach to referrals and alliances. The second is educational marketing. Okay, you see the list here. I'm not going to take you through it. There's a million ways to do educational marketing. And listen, if you're not attracting people in your target market and decision makers, you're wasting your time. The whole point is getting touches with people in your target market through speeches, blogs, webinars, articles. The ones in person are the best because people see you. They feel like they know you. Each of you should do at least one educational marketing thing. Now listen, for me, speeches don't work out. I stopped doing keynote speeches unless I'm paid like $10,000 to $15,000, or there's some other lucrative thing that happens, because I got 0 clients from my speeches. But I do well with seminars, webinars, LinkedIn, discussions and groups has been good for me. Everybody's going to have, research shows that everybody has a different style. I'm not saying speeches don't work. I'm saying speeches don't work for me. So I get paid for those now. Okay, again, it's a science. That's educational marketing. It makes sense, right? Why be a fly-by-night coach that just shows your credential on a web page? You know, show that you're somebody. Leadership is the third. Some attorneys, some accountants, some consultants get all of their clients just by being on the board of one prominent nonprofit in their area. Quality is better than quantity. So here's some examples. Lead a committee in a major industry association. I knew one who would raise funds. She was good at fundraising, so she raised funds for a prominent nonprofit. People loved her. They saw she was a leader. They wanted her to coach them. Social clubs, tennis clubs, golf clubs, country clubs, where the movers and shakers hang out. And get active. Don't just be a member. If you're a parent, I'm a parent. I'm amazed how many successful executive parents come to the kids' swim meets. We got a tennis team. There's a piano recital. My God, those things are like watching paint dry. But luckily, I've met some great parents there, and that's turned into some business. You never know where it's there. The question is, are you making the right connections? Are you showing up in places where you're meeting high-level people? Don't go to a local Chamber of Commerce networking event where you're just going to meet people in yellow jackets trying to sell you insurance. Think about quality. All right, if you want to meet a 10, you have to be a 10. You have to hang out where the 10s are hanging out. So that's how you should think about leadership. So thanks, Claire. When I say do at least one of these, I mean one group, right? You'll have plenty to do there. So, pick a non-controversial nonprofit. Actually, you might even pick two. One could be a nonprofit in your community, just a service role, and another could be in a local industry association, not a coaching association, an industry or functional association, like a group of accountants, realtors. And you can even do some research as a leader. Say, listen, I'll interview all of your members or a sampling of your members on their biggest issues, and I'll present at your next meeting. Become somebody. Be a leader. If you don't show up as a leader, why would someone hire you as a leader coach? And finally is online. Online is the one that just frustrates me to no end. It's really simple. You don't have to go nuts. You don't have to get neurotic about it. The goal is to get conversations, not connections. If you remember that, everything is easy. So you could start a LinkedIn group, a group relevant to your target market, all about them. Invite people from other groups that you're in to join and make it a great group. And then connect personally with members. Send them interesting things behind the scenes that they'll like. Reach out. Ask if they have time for a call once you think you know them well enough. You can join LinkedIn groups others have started and do the same thing. And look, it's not about pressing, yes, I'll connect with you when you get requests or make requests. You want to go from online to offline. I get requests all the time. People want to talk to me, and they never explain why. They say something vague like, it seems like we have common interests in coaching. Can we talk next week? And they happen to be recruiters. I know they just want me to help them recruit. But if they were just more open and saying, look, I'm a recruiter, I'm looking for leads, you're a coach, I have a lot of clients that could use coaches, now I see value. You have to do the same thing. Figure out how you can help these folks and get a conversation going. Okay, so that's online one. If you have a great LinkedIn profile, and by the way, mine, I hired someone to do for me, and so you could look at mine, I like it. You could use that as a template, for crying out loud. It talks about what I've done in terms of value. It has some nice case studies. I have 147 written recommendations that are all real and authentic. And, so you could go with just LinkedIn, which is free, and not do a website. But if you do a website, there's two ways to go. And you should have a website. If you have a lot of relationships, and you just want your website to be what we call a warm call website. In other words, people go to your website and they see that you're credible. The one on the left is really good. I'll show it to you in a second. If, on the other hand, you want to be an expert, you need an educational site, and the one on the right is helpful for that. Okay, so here's a warm call example. I love these guys. They're from a company called Leader Strong. They're great coaches. And if you look at what they've done, it's just a nice set of solutions. It doesn't really talk about an industry or anything like that. But if I go to this website, I know they're credible, right? At a minimum, you should have a website like this. And it should talk as much as possible about the client. Remember that UI ratio. But my favorite website is this guy, thefundraisingcoach.com. Notice that he doesn't even sell himself here. All you see is information about fundraising. He has a book you can get. You can click, am I new to fundraising? Am I experienced? Am I, the book again? And then it's all the rest is blogs, interviews, a great subscription to a newsletter about fundraising training right in your inbox for no cost. There's even a bonus with 21 ways for board members to engage in fundraising. This website is brilliant. It has testimonials where he's been featured. It has social proof about places he's been featured. It has, and you can build towards this. Start with a blog, start with some testimonials, that your colleagues write. You don't have to have this right off the bat. It's such a brilliant website. I love it. When I go to this, I know this is the guy. If I ever want something about fundraising, I'm contacting him, but he doesn't even have a marketing message. His marketing message is his substance. Does that make sense? So online does not have to be complicated. You can do a warm call website, a free LinkedIn profile that's really well done, some recommendations, get involved in groups, and connect in order to build a relationship. Okay, so what I want to do now is take a little break. I'm going to give you a sneak peek of the Business Development Intensive. We have 44 modules coming up, 2 per every other week. And at the same time, I'll take any questions you might have. Okay, so while I get this up, let me just take 3 to 5 minutes to tell you what's coming. There we go. And again, ask any questions so far, and then stay for the end because I want to get you the slides, and I want to do the final 2, probably the most important topics, which is pricing, how to price appropriately, and coaching conversations that convert clients. Okay, so here's where I'm going. You can go to this website too. I've just put it in the chat. It's centerforexecutivecoaching.com, BD for business development intensive.cfm. You can click for seasoned coaches on our website and just go to business development intensive for coaches if you prefer. Okay, but here I am. Look, let me just show you quickly what you get. There's 44 live webinar modules. So we're going to continue this. I'll do 2 every other week. So it's really 22 sessions. Personal support, money back guarantee, all that. You can see some testimonials from people. Let's see, this guy, John Moore. I just signed my 3rd $50,000 plus company contract. I've contracted with 5 individual clients paying between $1,500 and $2,000 per month. This has been the key to my success. Value 10 to 20 times the cost. Okay, if you are enjoying what you're hearing today, you should join. But here it says if you're new to coaching and struggling to get traction, if you're a seasoned coach and you want to go to that next level, if you know you're not communicating your value in a way that sets you apart, if you're maybe uncomfortable in selling conversations, you want to make more money, you can keep clients longer, like more than 1 or 2 years, you want business development to feel natural and not awkward, or you just want to tune up, or you want a system to stay on track and be accountable, this is probably for you. I won't take you through my bio. Let me just tell you what you get, okay? And then the pricing, and then we'll go back to the presentation. And again, thank you for this, and I do hope you'll join. This is the first time I've done it this way. Usually I just do the webinar, but people have asked to continue. So 1, every other week we'll do a live webinar on a different topic to help you attract new clients, keep them longer, increase your financial success. They're 30 to 60 minutes. I'm going to figure out who's in the program and do them over different time zones, and I record them. So if you miss one, you can get the recording in your member area. There's almost a full year of content. And listen, this is not like an MBA. This is deeper. I've never seen anyone go this deep on business development. And I'll show you the agenda in a minute. But if there's something I'm missing, you tell me. I'll create a new module. Look, I'm not looking for 1 million members here. You tell me, hey, Andrew, something's missing from this agenda. I will roll out a new webinar. Okay, every module is not academic. Every module is practical. It starts and stops with accountability and your dashboard. It is practical and focused on your success. In fact, let me show you the agenda here. You can click there to see the agenda and the fact that I'll roll out new agendas. Let's see, here's another one. Within 3 months of starting your program, a few months, I got a $50,000 coaching engagement, got 3 more, blah, blah, blah. So 1, we start with the dashboard and goals. We're going to keep you accountable. 2, we go deeper into the psychology of business development, both you as a business developer and the prospective client. 2, 3, we go through a bunch of modules on coaching the client through the selling process. And we're going to have clinics where we practice. So you win more engagements. You don't waste your time with people who aren't going to buy. and you feel natural. The secret is switching from selling to coaching, and we'll talk about that in one of the resolutions in a minute. The built-in bonus here is I'll also give you a couple of examples of my own proposals. I never write a proposal until I've closed the deal, and I'll show you how to do that and what goes into a proposal. I'm going to take you through the marketing foundations that most coaches neglect. Again, we'll go deeper into your target market. We'll talk about how to do a marketing message, actually a couple of marketing messages, and your program has something like 20 sample marketing messages in it. I'll review your marketing message as well. Then we talk about how to do what I just said, how to get out there and establish credibility with very little cost. Relationship marketing, we'll practice. Educational marketing, everything from webinars to speaking to research, how to productize everything you do. Online marketing, something called the 25 prospect strategy, the test lab, and it's going to result in your annual marketing plan so that marketing becomes automatic. We'll talk about different business models for coaches. And then we'll talk about how to go beyond trading your time for dollars and get passive and recurring revenues, including one of the most popular that we do, how to write a book and use that book for much more than book sales. So there's 44 modules. Okay, let me just go back to what else is included. Hold on a second. Okay, so 3, all webinars are recorded. You never have to worry about missing them. But again, I'll mix and match time zones to make sure most people can get on. 4, there's an exclusive member area that you have ongoing access to. It has recordings and a bunch of other bonuses. 5, I'll give you the notes beforehand that accompany each session. They'll be in your member area before the webinar. I'm also going to include all my previous teleclasses about marketing your practice so you can get results immediately. Okay, so this is like hours of content that you get immediate access to. I told you over 24 samples of marketing messages, hundreds of examples. I'm not kidding. I think there's got to be, there's 100, at least 100 examples of marketing materials, as well as questions that there's hundreds of examples of questions that uncover whether you're talking to a real prospective client or not and how to deal with that. Dozens of examples of blogs, educational giveaways, things that are good calls to action. You get 1 full year of support directly from me. I'm delighted to work with you. I'll review your messaging, website, action plan. Okay, it's not like weekly coaching. We're not going to set up a one-on-one weekly coaching call, but email me anytime. One of the things people say about me is that I'm very accessible. I will review your website, your marketing message. If we need to, if you have a hot prospect on the line, we can set up a call. Okay, it's really good. And I'll give you a 45-day money-back guarantee. Now here, don't just sign if you're one of these looky-loos that just wants to get some stuff for free. The assumption here is that you're coachable, you're accountable, and you're going to apply the advice during the 45 days. If that's true, I honor the guarantee, but please don't join if you're just one of these people who gets in because there's a money-back guarantee and you're really not serious. Okay, the investment, I've done this before for $2,500 up to $7,500 in live and distance programs. I'm testing a new price. I'm testing a price of $897. I'm only doing it for this. There's no ongoing charges. There's nothing monthly. I know there's another program that charges $897 and then you pay something every month. I'm not doing that. It's just $897 for everything I just described. There's no hidden fees. You get everything described for $897. You can even pay in installments. Okay, so look, it's a no-brainer. If you're like me and you're looking for $15,000 to $20,000 clients, you can do the math about how many clients you need to break even. I teach everything myself. They're live, and I only do this once in a while. Okay, and there's the links that you can join. All right. So yeah, as Stefan says, yeah, I give individual and customized feedback, a review of your site, your approach. So how do you sign up? This is how you do it. If you're a member of the Center for Executive Coaching Certified Executive Coach Program, just stay tuned, okay? I'll get you an email so that you're included. That's included in that program. So you don't, it's part of what we've always done. But for those who are outside that program, I thought I'd carve it out and give it a try. Okay, the webinars start in 2 weeks. All right, and how it works is once you sign up, give me a day or two, and I'll get right back to you. By the way, the first 12 people who sign up from this webinar, I'll do a 30-minute to 1-hour immediate consultation with you, okay, for the first 12. And again, I'm not trying to make this huge, okay, so that could be all of you, which would be perfectly fine. All right, so just click one of these buttons. You can see it. I sent the link over. Let me get back to the content, okay? Again, I promised this would not be more than 3 to 5 minutes, and I hope that's okay. All right, hold on a minute. And again, I'll answer more questions at the end, but I want to make sure we get to what we're headed to. All right. Let's see, just some quick, yeah, here's a great question. Are these modules appropriate for people who are not coaches yet, but are working towards the educational program they want to enroll in? Yeah, I mean, I think they are. I mean, they're certainly good for coaches who want to get traction, who want to get that first client and want to avoid the first 6 months of, if I may say, hell that I went through a while ago to get my practice started. So it could be a great way to figure out what your niche will be. You could do it in parallel with another program you might be in. But it's also great for seasoned coaches because here we're talking about whatever your aspirations are. All right, let's keep going. So, resolution number 7. This is the big one. Stop having low pricing self-esteem. That should be, if you're going to pick one resolution this year, stop it. A lot of this is related to be on equal footing with your clients. If you looked at a scatter plot of coaches in terms of the price they charge and the value they give to clients, it would look something like this. You have a few coaches who charge more than they should. They don't provide much value, but they have a lot of self-esteem. You have a few coaches who provide great value, and they don't charge anything near what they should or what other coaches are who aren't pricing or aren't providing nearly as much value. So we need to get all of us away from low pricing self-esteem. I'm going to give you some laws of pricing, and then when I tell you how to sell the next one, you'll also see something. Look, here's the laws of pricing physics. You see, this is supposed to be Isaac Newton here being hit by the apple. The lowest price you can charge is your cost. You can't charge lower than your cost. In this case, the cost of your time. If you're charging really low, you're telling people you don't value your time. You don't value yourself. You're not worth anything. So you want to be really careful here. Make sure you think of the salary you want as a coach and don't charge lower than that. The highest price you can charge is based on the value you provide to the client. That's the great thing about consulting, coaching, other advisory services. If you get a sole source opportunity, meaning you're the only one being considered with a decision maker, and you're able to uncover lots of value, you can charge a lot. And of course, we have to adjust for the realities of the market, their budget, and the competition. But the conclusion is, look, you never charge lower than your cost such that your clients don't respect you, but you can often charge much higher. So here's what works for me, okay? And I'll give you the range so we can see it. I don't charge by the hour or the day or even the month. I charge by the engagement, okay? And I've surveyed coaches, and I'm in the minority, but this works best for, I think, a lot of coaches at the higher end. So I'm providing a solution, right? I'm not a plumber. I'm not an electrician. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a solution provider. So I charge to solve a problem. I charge by the engagement. Look, Marshall Goldsmith does this. He used to be $100,000 for one behavior over a year with an executive, $218,000 I've heard now for 18 months, I think, with a team. So he's charging by the engagement, and he meets like once a month. So for me, what I do, a typical 6-month engagement, and by the way I arrived at this is I know that the monthly rate for coaches is anywhere from $1,500 up to $7,500 a month. And for most of the coaches most of the clients in our range is, for me, it's more like, $2,500 to $3,500. Okay, so for me, a 6-month engagement might be $18,000. And what I do is charge half up front, half in the middle. Okay. And what I'm doing is not focusing on the time. I'm focusing on the value. I'm asking great questions to say, look, what becomes possible if we work together for your career, for you personally, for your organization, for your employees, for the initiatives you have going on. And if I can uncover a problem that's worth anywhere from $50,000 to $500,000, this is no problem. And it's often the intangible, personal, emotional costs or opportunities that are the best. I want to move up in my career, but my career's stagnant. I want to look good to my boss. Those are the things that typically end up really getting me hired. And to avoid them calculating by hour or thinking of you as an IT software provider, you throw in bells and whistles so that it's a real project, an assessment, some tracking, some toolkits, email support, a group, a member area. That works very well for me. Okay. If you want to win your first engagement, my first engagement, I'm embarrassed to tell you what the price was. That strategic planning, I think I charged $1,500 for a weekend. Now for strategic planning work, I'm $50,000 to $75,000. I've added a little bit of substance, but it's a heck of a lot more than that. So if you're trying to win your first engagement and you're on this webinar, price the engagement out at the lowest price you'll take so that you don't care one way or another. In other words, if they say yes, you're satisfied, and if they say no, you're satisfied. You have to know that rate. It might be lower than what you take in the long term, and that's fine. You can always adjust your pricing up. But what I found works with people is don't obsess over pricing. It's just your first engagement. You're in a marathon, not a sprint. There'll be many more. Just get hired, get some momentum, show that you can get someone to pay you, and pick that price at which if they say no, you say, my God, they really didn't have any money or they didn't value this. But if they say yes, you're equally happy. Russ says, had I written my books at the time of my first seminar? No book yet, but I used the strategic planning workshop that I did and I productized it. I turned it into a chapter of my book. So that's pricing, okay? I want you to resolve to price what you know you're worth. And the way to do that is to learn how to make the sales process natural and authentic for you. You need to coach instead of selling. And we're going to do clinics on this if you continue with the program. Okay, I'm going to practice with you as much as needed so that you're totally comfortable with this. See, only 3 things matter. You need to coach a client to figure out if 2 of these things are true. The first is, do they see value? If they solve their problem, is there value? I've had a lot of prospective clients contact me and they're not really serious about solving their problem. They don't see value. I don't know if they just want to talk or someone told them to make a call or they want free advice, but they don't see a lot of value in solving their problem. You want to coach them through that. 2, you need to find out if they have the money or if they can get it or if they're willing to get it. If they're not, you're wasting your time. And 3, do they want to work with you? That one's a little bit more intangible, but the first 2 are key. So you want to have a list of cost and value questions, and I'll show you a generic list in a minute. If you join the program, you'll see, like, again, hundreds of them. 2, don't be afraid to ask about budget. I can't stand getting calls from coaches who say, hey, Andrew, I'm writing a proposal. What should I charge for this? And I'll say, I'm sorry, was I the one hiring you? How am I going to read your mind and the client's mind? Ask them. You got to learn how to have conversations where you can get them to say a number so that you know whether you're wasting your time or not. And there are ways to do that. You never want to be caught reading a client's mind for a proposal. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. You don't even know if they can get the money. So you have to get comfortable having those conversations. And finally, you got to get good at adapting to other people's style or finding a group that has your style. So for instance, in my program, I'm proud to have a NASA rocket scientist, literally. And he shared that he found that, there was a group that didn't resonate with his style. And it was a very different group than he was accustomed to. But I believe now he's targeting engineering groups and tech groups. And that makes a lot of sense for his style because they'll want to work with him. So only 3 things matter. And so you need to know these cost and value questions. And I have a list right here. So what is this costing your company, right? These are generic. You can adapt these to any problem. Tell me, what's this costing your company? And then drill down, coach them through. I'm looking for as much cost as possible. So I'm working with a $1 billion healthcare organization right now. They absolutely need to accelerate their change process or they're not going to be around. I mean, they have a $2 billion problem. So you think they're willing to spend, 6 figures for a coach like me to help accelerate change? You bet they are. And I knew this because I was able to ask the right questions. What's the impact on revenues and profits? What's the impact on your employees? Again, be ready to drill down. What's the impact on customer satisfaction or retention or loyalty? What's your boss saying about it or what's your board saying about it? What does it mean for how you spend your time? A lot of times people hire you to get their life back. What does it mean for your stress level? What else? And summarize, what's the overall cost? If I don't hear a big cost, I'm going to say, listen, I got to be honest with you. I don't think you're going to hire someone like me. You just don't have a big enough problem. And I don't waste my time anymore. Okay, I'll be nice. Maybe they'll have a big problem down the road. Similarly, you then want to switch to positive value questions, right? You don't want to just stick a knife in them with all these bad news questions. So, let's reverse. What would it be worth if we solve this issue? What would it mean for you? What does it mean for revenues, profits, cash flow, the value of your company? What's it mean for your employees and their engagement or loyalty? What will it mean to customers? What will your board say or your manager? How will your use of time change? What about your career or reputation? If all those things are in place, then I can switch to talking about money and what an ideal solution would look like. But I'm coaching. Do you see what's happening? I'm coaching. I'm not selling. I'm not pitching. I'm just being curious as if I were a coach. Oh, and I am. And so are you. If I get objections, I'm going to coach them through it. I'm going to ask a question like, why do you ask? Tell me more. I'm not going to make an assumption. I might negotiate something in return. If they ask for references and I have them, I'll say, look, I can give you 3 great references. Why would I ever give you a lousy reference? Let's say I do. What do you do next? And if they say, I want to write a proposal, give me a proposal, that's often just a polite prospect saying, I'm not going to hire you, so go away. And we interpret that as, yay, I have a prospect who wants a proposal. So I say, I can't write a proposal. Let's sit down and write it together. I can't read your mind. I need your help. If you have something that keeps coming up, like you're new, you just launched your practice and everybody's asking for client referrals or references, you say, listen, I got to tell you up front, I just launched my practice. I have years of achievements. As an executive, I'm new as a coach. I just want to make sure that you're okay with that. I can put you in touch with some people who talk to my general character, but I don't have any clients yet. Is that going to be an issue? And if it is, you move on. Everybody gets hired without their first, everyone has a first client. All right. And again, if it looks like, sometimes you just reassure. Sometimes they just want reassurance. And sometimes you have to return to value and money. If they say your price is too high or it's too expensive or it just seems like they're not moving forward, I just go back to, let's go back to what you said you wanted to achieve. Are you really sure you want to solve this problem? Okay. So basically you're just coaching the client and you keep doing it to a close. Once you know there's a problem, once you know there's a budget, I coach the client to a close. I just say, listen, I've helped other clients in this situation. I think I can help you given what you've shared with me. Would you like to talk about how? And then I can lay out a coaching plan, or I can let them do it. I can coach them and say, well, tell me, how might we work together? What would be an ideal approach for you? Or what would you like to see in terms of an engagement? I'm being a coach. I'm using powerful questioning, good listening. And when I did this, it changed everything. I'm a natural coach. You are too. I don't sell anymore. I don't solve their problem. If they say, well, tell me what the solution is, I'll say, well, that's what we cover in our engagement. So, tell me, what would you like that to look like? And the best way to close, and in fact, the only close I know, and again, this was great news for me. I thought there was some magic book of closes. You hear the reverse, upside down, double somersault close. All I want to say to them is, what do you want to do next, or what happens next? And then I keep quiet and I listen. And they either say, let's go forward, or they have an issue. If they have an issue, I go back to, well, how can we address the issue? And I ask a question. I coach them through the issue. Or if it sounds like they're just dilly-dallying and never going to hire me, I say, it sounds like you just want to talk about the problem, but you don't want to pay. You really don't have a problem that merits an engagement. Let's just be honest about that. Okay? So those are the final 2 resolutions. And of course, get over low pricing self-esteem and coach your client through the selling process. All right. So again, next steps, if you can go to the website, if you're interested, the first 12, I just figured, it's not on the website, but the first 12 who register, I'll set you up with a nice coaching session to review where your marketing's at and set some goals, like an orientation to the program. And if you do sign up, give it a couple of days, like 2 business days, for me to send you an email and get you into the member area. And I don't have anything else. I hope you found great value from this. I'm going to take some time to answer any questions you have. And let's just take a moment, whether it's about the program or coaching. I'll go through those for a few minutes. Okay, let me take this off the recording.